Well, this is the worst of the worst. I mean, what you're seeing here in New Orleans is incompetency at many levels of government, from the federal level, where you have an FBI assistant director come out hours after the attack and be like, nah, no terrorism here, nothing to see here, to now what you're seeing at some of the local levels. District Attorney Jason Williams. Well, he is now talking about how in the wake of this attack in New Orleans, what we really need is more surveillance. And I am here to tell you, sir, that you are missing the bigger point. But this is a great way, when people are afraid, when people are fearful, they're willing to give up more of their rights. It's just a fact. And for those and you could see this in the wake of 9/11, you could point to COVID, right? The way that people just handed over their rights and said, please take it right off this silver platter. Would you please? May I have another? When you get scared, you don't make smart decisions. You don't think rationally. And there are people at different levels of government, and this guy in New Orleans, the DA, Jason Williams, is apparently one of them, who is hoping to use this tragedy as a way to strip more rights and get more control over his citizens' lives. It's really that simple. Here he was yesterday talking about that very thing. And then we'll get to you at 913-408-7957 on that fine line between wanting to have your government do what needs to be done to protect you and protect us to some degree, while not crossing the line into basically citizen surveillance 24/7.
Things are going to have to change. Just after 9/11, I remember a time when I could run from my car to the gate to catch a flight. After 9/11, we realized we need to do things very, very differently so that we can all arrive at our destination safely. I think you're going to see a lot of things change in the city of New Orleans. And actually, I think you're going to see a lot of things change in this country in terms of how we handle large-scale events, where there is pedestrian access and where vehicles are allowed. I think you're going to see things change in terms of the level of surveillance that we have in this country. We've pushed back against some of that, but when you look at places like the UK and other European places where CCTV is very commonplace and used proactively so that it can look for signs or indications of an attack, I think you're going to start seeing those things in this city because I'm going to be pushing for them, and you're going to probably see them in a lot of other places that are destination cities like the city of New Orleans.
That is New Orleans DA Jason Williams. 913-408-7957. When you hear that, do you say to yourself, yeah, sign me up? Or do you say, hey, buddy, that's not the answer here? I say the latter. I don't think it's all that close. And I know that you will be shocked to learn that those comments were made on MSNBC. I know.
Talk about a bombshell.
Yeah, MSNBC. They are still masked up because Rex Archer told them to be masked up and Fauci told them to be masked up. So they're all happy giving away their rights however they see fit. If it's for Big Brother, they'll gladly do it. And it also might shock you, tongue-in-cheek, to learn that this guy, Jason Williams, New Orleans DA, was backed by George Soros. I know. You are just shocked by that. Yes. George Soros backed this DA, and it should not be a surprise to learn that. And now, the day after this tragedy happens in New Orleans, he's comparing more surveillance in the city to what happened after 9/11 in the days of just running from your car to the airplane. Those really aren't comparable, my friend. I know we all watch Home Alone and we're like, man, I remember those days of running through the airport to try to catch a plane with no TSA. A little bit different once we realized that hijackers could very easily take over planes and do God knows what with them. I don't really have any issue with TSA outside of the fact that they insist on, it seems like, shaking down grandma and patting down grandma and feeling up grandma and then being like, you kind of look different, but I don't want to get in trouble, so walk on through. But hey, grandma, let me fill you up. Get over here. Come on.
Testing milk samples from our baby's bottle.
I know. Every time with trust me, I've done A lot of traveling with the little ones the last bunch of years. And every time with the formula. We got to put the bag through. Kate's bag goes through. It's got water in it with the formula. They're separated. Is this water for the Nope. It's actually, it's about to explode. No, I'm kidding. We don't ever say it. But it's like, goodness gracious. But, young single guys, walk right through, please. But baby formula for that little baby in your hands, I don't know about that. We got to test it and run it through the machine first. Okay. All right. Do your thing. All right. Fine. We'll take it. It's okay. So where do you draw the line on this stuff? Where do you say, listen, I want to be in a city that's safe. If I go down to Bourbon Street, which I've never done, I heard you got to do it once and then you're kind of good. It's not something you really have to go back to, especially if it does smell like just booze and urine all day. I'm not really interested in that. I can smell that at home, not the booze part, but I smell, stuff from little kids all day. So I'm good on that front. But if I go down there, yes, I want to be safe. And you know what I want? I want like barricades, right? That's something I want. I want a police presence. Do you want the DA? Should the DA be following your every move, as Jason Williams, the New Orleans DA, alludes to there? Is this really the best play? You've got this Soros-backed guy calling for European-like surveillance measures to defend against terror attacks. And also, just to give you a little insight on this guy, far-left DA, he went viral for being carjacked in 2023. So he's one of these George Soros soft-on-crime prosecutors who had himself carjacked a year ago, or 2 years ago now. And he said there, I think you're going to see things change in terms of the level of surveillance that we have in this country. Is anyone going to surveil people who are like posting videos on Facebook like this guy was leading up to this terrorist attack in New Orleans? Is he going to be surveilled on by the feds, by anybody? He posted 5 videos on Facebook as he was driving from Houston to New Orleans. But instead, what they'll do, just like TSA, is they'll make sure that they've got surveillance on you and they know your every move. But somehow you've got guys like this that amazingly just keep slipping through the cracks. And I don't know if that's because they don't want to seem like they are targeting people of certain backgrounds. They don't want to be accused of that. It's a lot easier to target me or target you maybe than it is to be like, well, this guy, maybe we should keep an eye on him. He's got online ramblings that ISIS would be very proud of. He's posting videos on Facebook in the hours leading up to this tragedy, talking about what he wants to do, talking about how this is about the believers versus the disbelievers, quoting the Quran. Maybe we got a problem on our hands here. The story here is not about lack of surveillance in New Orleans. There's nothing to suggest that that was a problem. What did you do leading up to it? What did the feds do leading up to it with this guy? What did they know about him? And if they didn't know anything about him, what can they do with the tools that they currently have in their toolbox to potentially find people like this? That's the question they need to ask themselves. I'd ask this New Orleans DA, you tell me how having more surveillance on Bourbon Street could have prevented this. I will potentially consider whatever you want to do if it comes to more cameras or something like that, but tell me how the lack of more surveillance led to this tragedy. And I don't think you can do that right now because that's not what the story is about. Have you seen some of the video of the New Orleans police chief, Ann Kirkpatrick? Oh, my gosh. I mean, any city government that hired this person to be your chief of police hates you. This person is just beyond the pale when it comes to having any competency. Ann Kirkpatrick continues to sadly embarrass the city of New Orleans in the wake of this terrorist event that happened early morning hours of New Year's Day. And take a listen to her yesterday as she's doing a press conference or just doing some Q&A with the media. And she admits to not knowing some of the basic protocol on how they keep people safe in her own city.
What you see behind us is what we call hardening the target. So we have brought in heavy trucks. You will see when you go down Bourbon, you will see yellow, what we call archers, and they're along the sidewalk. And that would be to be preventive if someone had, or if this particular terrorist went around up on the sidewalk, that's what that would do. Okay, it would slow that down for anyone who thought that they could breach our targets. And so those are some of the main differences we are done in the quarter. Also, you are going to see an incredibly large presence of police. And we are, though, confident, but we want our community to feel confident and know they are confidently safe. And that's what we're going to do. So right now, I can declare to you that the Bourbon Street is open.
Chief, where did those archers come from?
Sorry?
Those yellow archers, where did they come from?
Actually, we have them. I didn't know about them, but we have them. And so we have been able now to put them out.
Okay.
Excuse me? Am I hearing that right? And she kind of reminds me of Marie, the mother-in-law, and Everybody Loves Raymond. Doesn't there's a little bit of that? She's like a skinny version of Marie from Everyone Loves Raymond.
It's funny. People have descriptions. Everybody has a different one, though. That's funny.
I mean, that's mine. You could probably find one from the 60s and the 70s, some grandma on a TV show.
Yeah.
But, you know, for millennials, I would say
Mrs. Doubtfire.
She got a little Mrs. Doubtfire. At least she's a woman as far as I know. Ooh. That's the one thing I'll say. But with that being said, is that the lady you want being the police chief in, I will add, one of the deadliest cities in America? New Orleans is, on a per capita basis, right up there, sad to say, with Kansas City here when it comes to deadliest cities based on homicides on a per capita basis. It's right up there. And she got fired in Oakland, California in 2020. And now she's the police chief in New Orleans. If you are running the city of New Orleans and you pick up the person that even Oakland, California fired as their police chief and you hire her, are you trying to get your own people killed? I mean, I think that's a fair question to ask, John.
Dude, I'm a boomer, but she's like old.
Yes.
No, I'm serious in the sense that I think it's a young man's game or a young person's game.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I would think I'm a little surprised at the age.
Now, she was born in 1959, so she's going to be 66 years old.
She didn't weather well.
No.
Oakland was hard on her.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing 70.
No, she definitely, listen, that's a rough gig. That's a job that for every year you work is going to put some wear and tear on the old tires. That's policing, especially in major American cities. It's not a job for a 65-year-old. I'm sorry. If we had a 65-year-old police chief, you want to call
your retirement.
You call that ageism? I don't care. I call it I don't want you in the job. You're too damn old. And I don't care if that offends you. It doesn't matter. You've got to have somebody who is seasoned enough but not old. And yes, Father Time has not been kind to Ann Kirkpatrick, but that's the least of her problems right now. You have somebody who, in a live press conference, says she has no clue that New Orleans has sidewalk barriers to defend against terror attacks, which are now being used today. It is a total embarrassment. She admits to it in that video clip that we just played. She was unaware of sidewalk barriers, something that would have likely saved lives had they been installed on New Year's. And here's another little tidbit on Ann Kirkpatrick for you, just, so we're all on the same page about what her background includes. The New Orleans police chief teaches the FBI a course on bias and diversity. I kid you not. You can't make this up if you tried. Ann Kirkpatrick instructs executive members of law enforcement agencies on bias and diversity as a national instructor for the leadership training program at the FBI's Law Enforcement Executive Association. The lady who did not know that New Orleans has sidewalk barriers is helping the FBI with their DEI programs. This is like something, if you are trying to prove how some of these insane far left policies literally get people killed, I sadly will note that you can't write a script like this when it comes to this police chief and Kirkpatrick. Landon's on KCMO, and he is a listener who happens to be in New Orleans. Good morning, Landon. How are you? Thanks for joining us in Kansas City.
Hey, good, Pete. Thanks so much for taking my call. Yeah, I mean, you said it. And by the way, I do have ties to Kansas City, so I listen to your show almost every morning as I drive into the office down here in New Orleans. But you said it. Yeah, the entire government of New Orleans is a complete joke. I mean, from the mayor down to the DA, like you mentioned earlier, down to the police chief, a huge embarrassment. And I will say, you know, you were talking earlier about the CCTV and some of these other things that the DA was talking about as possible fixes to the crime issue down in New Orleans. What will help is I read a report the other day from down here in New Orleans that the police department is down 300 officers. And that's the only thing that's going to fix the crime down here is the police presence in terms of deterrence. I mean, CCTV is not going to do anything, especially if they catch the criminals and then they just release them a week later. Not going to do anything. I hope the other major cities, especially tourist cities around the country, learn from this and change their change their hiring of who they put in charge in some of these cities, such as the police chief and the DA and also the mayor. But they also implement these other deterrents and corrections to some of these governments in order to curb the crime a little bit. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Landon. How long you been down there in New Orleans?
So I've been down here going on 4 years now, and I'm in the military, so I move all around. And I will say my wife was down. My wife and I have 3 little kids. We don't live in the city specifically for this reason because of the high crime rate that we were warned against before we moved down here. But my wife was down here for the Taylor Swift concert. She came down with a couple friends from Kansas City there, and she didn't actually go to the concert, but she took them down on Bourbon Street and did the whole tourist thing. And she was kind of excited to show her friends what Bourbon Street looked like, just with all the the crazy that goes on down there. And it was a complete different atmosphere than what is normally down here. I mean, during the Taylor Swift concert, there was police cars, police officers, all lined up and down Bourbon Street, and it was clean. But so she was actually a little disappointed when she went down Bourbon Street. But so they can fix it, and they can, but they're going to have to, especially before the Super Bowl in a couple months. I mean. But anyway, yeah, we've been down here for 4.5 or closing in on 4 years. So watching the mayor and the police chief and the DA, on the news is just it's embarrassing.
It is. Well, hey, I'm glad you took the show with you down there and you're listening on the stream every morning. We do appreciate that, Landon.
Absolutely. Listen to you every morning. And, hey, if you come down for the Super Bowl and you need a place to stay, look me up. I can't get you into the game, but I can give you a place to stay.
Well, hit me up on hit me up on Facebook. That's the way I know how to get a hold of you because I can't imagine I would, but just in case I got to take you up on the offer, my man, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I have 3 girls under the age of 6, so you'll feel right at home.
Oh, geez. Yeah, but here's the thing. If I go to the Super Bowl, I'm trying to avoid that, so I don't know if you're really helping your cause there, but I do appreciate that, my man. That's very nice of you.
No problem. Have a good day, Pete.
All right, you as well. That's cool. Landon, a listener who is from Kansas City, been in New Orleans for 4 years, listens every morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app, and checking in with a little local insight and local flair and perspective. That's good stuff. Very well done.